I still remember the exact shade of blue on my prom dress, the one I never got to wear. Royal blue, like the color of the Mason High School Wildcats, the team my ex-quarterback boyfriend used to lead before everything fell apart. It's been 5 years since Jessica Winters and her cheerleader posse circulated those photoshopped pictures of me throughout the school, captioned with, "Too ugly for prom." 5 years since Principal Harmon called me into his office to tell me I was uninvited from senior prom because my presence would cause a disruption. 5 years since I sobbed in my bedroom while scrolling through Instagram, watching everyone have the night of their lives without me. But here's the thing about being at rock bottom. There's nowhere to go but up. And up I went. That same girl who was deemed too ugly for a high school dance now has her face on billboards in Times Square. That same girl who was humiliated in front of the entire school now has the quarterback who dumped her blowing up her phone. They thought they ended my story, but they just gave me one hell of an origin story. Let me tell you how I turned the worst night of my life into the best revenge. Not by getting even, but by getting better. Growing up in Mapleton, Ohio meant everyone knew everyone's business. My family wasn't rich like the Winters or the Harmons. Dad left when I was 8, and Mom worked double shifts at Mapleton General to keep us afloat. Home was a small ranch house on the east side, the wrong side, according to Jessica and her country club friends. Mom always told me, "Cassidy Marie Taylor, your worth isn't measured by what others think of you." But those words were hard to believe when I'd come home with tear-stained cheeks after another day of being the girl who didn't quite fit in. I wasn't born with Jessica's blonde perfection or her father's credit card limit. I was all awkward angles, too tall, too skinny, with a gap between my front teeth that became the subject of countless middle school taunts. My older brother Jake was my protector until he left for the Army right after his own graduation. "Just keep your head down, Cass," he'd advised during our last Skype call before deployment. "2 more years and you're out of there." Thanksgiving of junior year was when things started to change. Mom had invited the neighbors over, including Mrs. Peterson and her son Tyler. Tyler Peterson, Mapleton High's star quarterback with the perfect jawline and a smile that made even the teachers swoon. I tutored him in algebra sophomore year, but we'd never really talked outside of school. That night, Tyler and I ended up on the porch swing after dinner, talking about everything and nothing until Mom called us in for pumpkin pie. 2 weeks later, he asked me to be his girlfriend in the school parking lot, and suddenly, I wasn't invisible anymore. Dating Tyler meant I was reluctantly accepted into Jessica's circle, the popular kids who ruled Mapleton High like it was their personal kingdom. I was never truly one of them. I was just Tyler's girlfriend to them. But for once, I wasn't the target of their jokes. Mom was skeptical. "Those aren't your real friends, Cassidy," she'd warn while braiding my hair for football games. "People who only value you because of who you're dating aren't people who value you at all." I should have listened. The first sign came at Jessica's New Year's Eve party. I overheard her in the bathroom with Mackenzie and Brianna. "God, I don't know what Tyler sees in her," Jessica had said, her voice slightly slurred from the vodka coolers her parents didn't know about. "Must be nice to have a charity case to boost his college applications." I pretended not to hear, swallowing the humiliation like I always did. Tyler said they were just jealous, but their whispers followed us through the halls. Then came February, when I found an old shoebox in Mom's closet while looking for her tax forms. Inside were letters, dozens of them from my father. Letters that had been arriving monthly since he left. Letters Mom had hidden from us. Letters explaining that he hadn't abandoned us willingly. He'd been struggling with addiction and left to get clean, to spare us from watching his descent. The last letter, postmarked just 3 months earlier, included a check for $25,000, his attempt to help with my college fund. I kept this discovery to myself, this secret that rewrote my entire childhood narrative. Mom didn't know I knew, and I wasn't ready to confront her about the decade of lies. Instead, I focused on my relationship with Tyler and the upcoming prom that everyone said would be the most magical night of our high school lives. Tyler had asked me in classic quarterback fashion, with the help of the entire football team holding signs at a home game. My name was announced over the loudspeaker, and for once, the cheers were for me. Jessica hugged me afterward, her smile not quite reaching her eyes as she insisted we go dress shopping together. After all, she'd said, squeezing my arm just a little too tight, we need to find something that works with your unique look. I didn't know then that the grand gesture of Tyler's promposal was setting me up for a fall far more painful than I could have imagined. I didn't know that the royal blue dress hanging in my closet would become a symbol not of teenage dreams, but of public humiliation. And I certainly didn't know that the secret in that shoebox would eventually become my salvation. The 3 weeks before prom were a whirlwind of expectations. Mom had taken extra shifts to help pay for my dress, a floor-length royal blue gown with silver beading that made me feel, for once, beautiful. We'd found it at a consignment shop in Columbus, not Neiman Marcus like Jessica's designer number, but perfect for me. "You look like a movie star," Mom had whispered when I tried it on, her eyes glistening with tears. Tyler and I were nominated for prom court, which seemed to intensify Jessica's cold shoulder treatment. She'd been Tyler's lab partner freshman year, and rumors had always swirled that she carried a torch for him. Now, her passive-aggressive comments came more frequently. "That's a brave color choice for your skin tone," she'd said during lunch when I showed the girls a picture of my dress. "Not everyone can pull off such a statement." The Wednesday before prom, I was helping decorate the gym after school, stringing up fairy lights and assembling the Midnight in Manhattan themed backdrop. Jessica was there too, huddled with Mackenzie and Brianna, their heads bent over a phone, occasional laughter punctuated with glances in my direction. That night, my phone exploded with notifications. Someone, I later learned it was Brianna, had created a fake Instagram account. The profile picture was my yearbook photo, poorly photoshopped to exaggerate my features grotesquely. The username was Ugly Duckling Cassidy, and the only post was a manipulated image of me in my prom dress, made to look like I was bursting at the seams. The caption read, "Too ugly for prom. Repost if you agree." By morning, it had been shared by over half the senior class, including Tyler. I couldn't breathe when I saw his username in the list of people who had reposted it. When I called him, sobbing, he fumbled through an explanation. He thought it was a joke, he didn't mean anything by it, he was just going along with the team. "It's not a big deal, Cass," he said, his voice distant. "Everyone's just having fun." I went to school the next day with my chin up, determined not to give them the satisfaction of seeing me broken. But the whispers followed me down every hallway. Even teachers gave me pitying looks. At lunch, I approached our usual table, only to find my seat taken by Amber Williams, a junior cheerleader. Jessica smiled up at me with faux sympathy. "Oh, Cassidy, we didn't think you'd want to sit with us anymore, given everything." Tyler wouldn't meet my eyes. His arm was draped casually over the back of Jessica's chair. "What's going on?" I asked, my voice embarrassingly small. "Tyler and I reconnected last night," Jessica said, her perfect teeth flashing. "He realized he needed someone more compatible for prom court. No hard feelings, right?" The cafeteria had gone quiet. Everyone was watching, waiting for my reaction, phones ready to capture whatever happened next for their Snapchat stories. "Tyler?" I looked at him, silently begging him to deny it, to stand up for me, to be the person I thought he was. He shrugged, still not meeting my eyes. "Sorry, Cass. It's just, prom is important, you know?" I ran to the bathroom, locked myself in a stall, and called Mom, who left work immediately to pick me up. At home, I collapsed into her arms. "I can't go back there," I sobbed. "I can't face them." "You're stronger than all of them put together," she insisted, stroking my hair like she did when I was little. "Don't let them win." But the next morning, the final blow came. Principal Harmon called me into his office, where he sat with his hands folded on his desk, looking uncomfortable. "Cassidy, I'm afraid we have a situation," he began, clearing his throat. There have been concerns about disruptions at tomorrow night's prom. Disruptions? I repeated, confused. Yes, given the online situation and the tension it's created, several parents, including the Winters and the Petersons, have expressed concern that your presence might cause problems. He slid a piece of paper across the desk. The school board has decided it would be best if you didn't attend. We'll refund your ticket purchase, of course. I stared at the official letterhead, the formal language that boiled down to one brutal truth. I was being banned from my senior prom because I had been bullied. This isn't fair, I whispered, my voice shaking. I didn't do anything wrong. Sometimes, in administrative matters, fairness isn't the only consideration, Principal Harmon replied, not quite meeting my eyes. We have to think about the greater good of the student body. The greater good? As if I wasn't part of that student body. As if I was somehow less deserving of protection, of justice, of a normal high school experience. I went home early again, the official letter crumpled in my hand. Mom was furious, threatening to call the superintendent, the school board, even the local news. But I was tired of fighting, tired of being the victim, tired of Mapleton and all its cruelty disguised as small-town values. That night, as I lay in bed scrolling through more hateful comments online, a text came through from an unknown number. It was a photo taken at football practice months ago, Tyler and Jessica in what appeared to be an intimate embrace behind the bleachers, dated when he and I were very much together. The message read, "Thought you should know. They've been laughing at you all year. A friend." Something inside me snapped. The humiliation crystallized into resolve. I was done being Cassidy the doormat, Cassidy the victim. If Mapleton wanted a show, I'd give them one they'd never forget. I looked at the royal blue dress hanging on my closet door, then at the shoebox of letters on my desk. I had been keeping secrets to protect others. Maybe it was time to tell the truth, all of it, and let the pieces fall where they may. Prom night arrived with a thunderstorm that matched my mood. Lightning cracked across the sky as I sat at my bedroom window, watching couples in their finery dash from cars to porches for photos. My phone buzzed with notifications, Instagram stories showing the pre-prom party at Jessica's house, where Tyler stood with his arm around her waist, both of them glowing under her mother's chandelier. I'd spent the day in a strange calm, making preparations of my own. The royal blue dress hung pressed and perfect on my door. Mom had gone to her evening shift, believing I'd decided to have a quiet night at home with ice cream and movies. At 8:30 p.m., I slipped into my dress, applied my makeup with careful precision, and called an Uber. The driver, an older man named Hank, raised his eyebrows when I gave him the address of Mapleton High School. "Prom night," he commented, noting my attire in the rearview mirror. "Shouldn't you be with a date?" "I'm meeting someone there," I replied, which wasn't entirely a lie. The school parking lot was filled with limos and parents' cars. Through the gym's decorated entrance, I could see the strobe lights and hear the bass of some pop song. 2 parent chaperones stood at the door checking tickets. Mrs. Winters, Jessica's mother and PTA president, saw me first. Her perfectly Botoxed face couldn't quite manage surprise, but her voice went sharp. "Cassidy Taylor, I don't believe you're on the list tonight." I smiled, the calm inside me hardening into purpose. I just need 5 minutes. "I'm afraid that's not possible." Principal Harmon was very clear. "Mrs. Winters," I interrupted, "you can either let me walk in there for 5 minutes, or I can show everyone these." I held up my phone, displaying the screenshots I'd collected, evidence of Jessica's cyberbullying not just me, but 3 other underclassmen, all saved with timestamps and names. I wonder how the school board would feel about this documented harassment coming from the PTA president's daughter. Her face paled beneath her makeup. Without another word, she stepped aside. The music hit me like a physical force as I entered. For a moment, no one noticed me, just another girl in a prom dress. Then, like a wave, the whispers started. Heads turned, phones came up. Jessica, dancing with Tyler in the center of the floor, was the last to see me. When she did, her face contorted with disbelief. I walked straight to the DJ booth, leaned in, and whispered something to him. Confused but curious, he handed me the microphone. The music cut out. "Sorry to interrupt," I said, my voice echoing through the suddenly silent gym. "I know I'm not supposed to be here." Principal Harmon and the Winters family made that very clear. Tyler stepped forward, but Jessica grabbed his arm, holding him back. "I wanted to congratulate our prom king and queen," I continued, gesturing to where Tyler and Jessica stood frozen. "What a perfect couple. Tyler Peterson, our quarterback hero, who publicly humiliated his girlfriend of 8 months for social points, and Jessica Winters, who's been sleeping with him behind my back since December while pretending to be my friend." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Principal Harmon emerged from the sidelines, moving toward me, but I wasn't finished. "But that's not actually why I'm here," I said, my voice growing stronger. "I'm here because I'm done being the punchline to Mapleton High's joke. I'm done being too ugly or not good enough for people like you." I pulled out the letter I'd brought with me, the most recent one from my father's shoebox. "What none of you know is that while you've been planning this night, I've been accepted to NYU's film program with a full scholarship. And while Jessica's parents bought her a BMW for her birthday, my absent father has been sending child support that my mother hid from me for 10 years. Principal Harmon reached for the microphone, but I stepped back. "This town, this school, you all think being born into the right family or wearing the right clothes or dating the right person is what determines your worth. But Monday morning, I'll still be going to NYU, and you'll all still be trapped in the same small thinking that makes you feel big by making others feel small." Jessica lunged forward then, her designer dress shimmering under the lights. "You're pathetic," she hissed, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Nobody wants you here. Nobody ever did." I smiled at her, feeling genuinely sorry for how empty she must be inside. "I know. That's why I'm leaving. But before I go," I turned back to the crowd, "Tyler wasn't just cheating on me with Jessica. Ask Amber Williams about their study sessions. Ask Brianna about what happened after the state game." The room erupted. Tyler's face went from red to white as several girls turned to stare at him accusingly. Jessica whirled to face him, her expression murderous. I handed the microphone back to the stunned DJ and walked toward the exit, the crowd parting before me like the Red Sea. At the door, I paused, looking back at the chaos I'd left behind. Tyler and Jessica screaming at each other, Amber in tears, Principal Harmon futilely trying to restore order. In the parking lot, I found Mom standing next to her beat-up Honda, still in her hospital scrubs. "Hank called me," she said, referring to my Uber driver. "Said he was worried about what you were planning." I waited for her anger, her disappointment, but instead, she pulled me into a fierce hug. "I should have let you read those letters," she whispered. "I was trying to protect you from more pain, but I ended up causing it instead." "I know," I said, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. "Can we go home now?" As we drove away from Mapleton High for what I knew would be the last time, lightning split the sky again, illuminating the Midnight in Manhattan banner hanging over the entrance. I'd never make it to Manhattan with these people, but I'd get there on my own terms. The weekend after prom passed in a blur of viral local fame. Someone had live-streamed my speech on Instagram, and by Sunday morning, it had made its way to 3 neighboring high schools and even the local news website with the headline, "Banned Prom Student Exposes Bullying Culture at Mapleton High."
My phone alternated between blowing up with messages of support from unexpected corners, kids I barely knew, a teacher who said she'd been wanting to call out the administration's favoritism for years, and radio silence from the people I'd once considered friends. Monday morning, Mom and I sat at our kitchen table with Principal Harmon and the superintendent. The meeting had been their idea, hastily arranged after the video reached the school board. "We want to offer our sincere apologies for how the situation was handled," the superintendent said, his tone carefully calibrated. "The district has a zero-tolerance policy for bullying that clearly wasn't followed in your case." Principal Harmon couldn't quite meet my eyes. "There will be disciplinary actions for the students involved," he added. "And we'd like to offer you the opportunity to finish your final weeks of classes remotely." It wasn't justice, not really, but it was acknowledgement. I accepted their offer to complete my coursework from home, relieved to avoid the hallways one last time.
The real surprise came that evening when Tyler's mother showed up at our door, her eyes red-rimmed. "Tyler told me everything," she said to Mom and me as we sat stiffly in our living room. "I wanted you to know that he's been suspended from the graduation ceremony. His scholarship to Ohio State is under review." She twisted her wedding ring nervously. "I raised him better than this. I thought I did, anyway." I felt no satisfaction in Tyler's fall from grace, only a hollow sort of vindication. "I never wanted to hurt him," I admitted. "I just wanted the truth to come out." Mrs. Peterson nodded sadly. "The truth has a way of doing that, one way or another." After she left, Mom brought out the shoebox. "I think it's time we talk about these," she said, placing it between us on the couch. "Your father, he wasn't perfect, but he wasn't the villain I made him out to be either." We spent hours going through the letters together, crying over the years lost to misunderstanding and pride. Dad had gotten sober 6 years ago and built a new life in Arizona, too afraid of rejection to do more than send the letters and checks Mom had hidden. "I was so angry at him for leaving," Mom explained, wiping her eyes. "I thought I was protecting you and Jake from more disappointment." "I want to meet him," I decided, "before I go to New York." The following weekend, I boarded a flight to Phoenix, the first plane ride I'd ever taken alone. Dad was waiting at the arrival gate, older and more weathered than in my memories, but with the same kind eyes. We hugged for a long time, strangers finding their way back to family. 2 weeks later, Jessica Winters delivered a public apology during the senior awards ceremony I didn't attend. Mom recorded it on her phone, Jessica's rehearsed words, her parents flanking her like sentinels. I watched it once, noting how she never actually said what she was sorry for, then deleted it. Some apologies aren't worth keeping. Graduation came and went. I accepted my diploma at the end of the alphabetical list, after most families had already started packing up their chairs. Only a few scattered claps accompanied my walk across the stage, but they included an enthusiastic whoop from Jake, home on leave specifically for this moment, and a dignified nod from Mrs. Peterson, who had reached out several times since our conversation. Tyler texted me the night before I left for NYU's summer program. "I know you probably hate me, but I'm sorry, for real. What I did was messed up. You deserved better." I stared at those words for a long time before responding simply, "Yes, I did." The twist no one saw coming, least of all me, was what happened my first week in New York. I was sitting in Washington Square Park, overwhelmed by the sheer aliveness of the city, when someone sat down beside me. "Cassidy Taylor?" I turned to find a tall guy with glasses and an earnest smile. "Do I know you?" I asked, instantly on guard. "No, but I know you. That video of you at prom went further than you think. My cousin goes to Mapleton East. I'm Ryan." He extended his hand. "I'm in the film program too." That chance meeting turned into coffee, which turned into study sessions, which evolved into the most honest friendship I'd ever had. Ryan didn't care about status or appearances.
He cared about stories, mine included. It was Ryan who convinced me to turn my experience into my first short film for class. The Uninvited, we called it, a 12-minute exploration of high school hierarchy and its casualties. When it won the department's freshman showcase, 3 film blogs picked it up, praising its authentic voice and unflinching portrayal of teen social warfare. A modeling agent saw my director's headshot in one of those articles and reached out. "You have an interesting look," she said matter-of-factly, "distinctive, memorable." The irony wasn't lost on me. The same features that had made me too ugly for prom were now getting me paid modeling jobs to supplement my film school expenses. By sophomore year, my face was on a billboard in Times Square for an indie clothing brand celebrating beauty beyond boundaries. Mom moved to Arizona that year, finally giving herself and Dad a second chance. Jake completed his military service and enrolled in community college near them. We became a family again, differently shaped, but stronger for having been broken. As for the royal blue prom dress that never saw its intended dance floor, I didn't trash it or burn it like friends suggested. Instead, I donated it to a nonprofit that provides formal wear to low-income students. Someone else's perfect night shouldn't be ruined by financial constraints or small-town politics. The most unexpected epilogue came during winter break of my junior year, when I returned to Mapleton to help Grandma move into assisted living. At the local coffee shop, I ran into Brianna, now home from college herself. "I didn't think you'd ever come back here," she said, genuine surprise in her voice. "Just visiting," I assured her. "How's everyone?" She filled me in on the scattered whereabouts of our former classmates. Jessica was at her father's alma mater, still posting perfectly curated Instagram photos, but with a dwindling follower count. Principal Harmon had taken early retirement after a school board investigation into pattern and practice issues following my incident. And Tyler? He'd lost his Ohio State scholarship but earned a spot at a smaller college. According to Brianna, he'd been texting her about me. "He saw your billboard," she explained, with a hint of her old gossipy delight. "He can't stop talking about how you made it out and made it big." I laughed, genuinely amused by life's strange symmetry. "Tell him I said hello," I said, meaning it. The anger had faded years ago, replaced by something like peace. Later that night, Tyler himself texted, "In town for break? Coffee sometime?" I considered ignoring it, but the girl who was banned from prom would have done that. The woman I'd become could face the past without flinching. "Sure," I replied, as friends. 5 years after the worst night of my life, I don't recognize the girl who cried over a blue prom dress. That's not to say she wasn't real or that her pain didn't matter. Just that pain doesn't have to define you forever. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd never found those letters. If I'd swallowed the humiliation like I'd been taught to do, if I'd let Mapleton decide my worth. But I've learned that our lowest moments often contain the seeds of our greatest transformations. My story isn't special because I succeeded in spite of those who hurt me. It's special because I succeeded because of what they taught me. That other people's perceptions are just that, theirs, not mine to carry, not mine to believe. So if you're watching this and feeling trapped in someone else's story about you, remember, you get to write the ending. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is simply turn the page. If this story resonated with you, please hit subscribe to see more content about finding your voice and creating your own path. Share this video with someone who might need to hear that rejection is often just redirection to something better. And remember, the people who can't see your worth don't deserve to be the audience to your journey.